The next thing we can talk about is how do you kind of structure your interviews. And this is going to be different for everyone. Oral historians will have a list of questions that they want to ask and they want to focus on, and it's the same questions they ask everyone. When I'm documenting traditional arts, I don't necessarily have a set number of questions, but I have 4 or 5 topics that I like to work with. And the first one is what I like to call beginnings. So how did you get started studying folklore? And I'll let the person answer and talk about that. And because it's a topic rather than a question, I can come back to it. So you had this teacher that was really influential. Can you tell me more about why that person was important in your life, or something like that? So how people got started, what their beginning, what their life story is. And then I like to talk about community. Who do you make persimmon pudding for? Who do you build buggies for in the Amish community? Who do you make quilts for? Your grandchildren, your community members, for homeless people? I start asking questions to do with community, because it's one thing to look at an object, but it's another to look at it and its connected and how it connects to other people. The third thing I look at is aesthetics, the artistic side of that. And I'm not talking the fine art side, I'm talking about what makes a good. If you can say that something is good and something is bad, there's an aesthetic choice, there's a standard choice that is made there. And so I can say, so what makes a good persimmon pudding? You like persimmon pudding, don't you, Suzanne? What makes a good persimmon pudding?
I like the texture to be sort of firm but not too hard. I like a really nice mix of spices that don't overwhelm it. And it has that really great color that you could almost call persimmon pudding brown.
Great. Now notice what I did. I've had students come and work with me, and they get so nervous and so excited about doing interviews, they start going, Say what you said again.
Well, I like it to have a firm texture, but not too stiff, and I like it to have spices, but not overwhelming.
What type of spices do you like in it?
Oh, I like cinnamon, and sometimes allspice, a little bit of nutmeg.
Do you ever try you get the point. You start interrupting, you start doing verbal encouragements. And the problem is, you never know how you're going to use this, especially in a media place. And so, while we're all aware of the fact that we're totally involved in the construction of this interview and the making of this media, we still want it to sound nice. And having us going, right here, right next to the mic, is not necessarily what we want to have in our videos. So the way you do it is good eye contact, good bodily motion, nodding your head a lot, smiling a little bit if it's appropriate, or having a concerned look if someone's upset about something that they're talking about. So, life story, the beginnings, community, aesthetics, and then process. I'll ask people to tell me about how do you make something. Talk about the materials you use. What are the tools? How did you learn to do this? Talk about the whole process of making something, if that's what we're talking about. And then the final area I like to look at is creativity. And there's 2 areas. There's traditionality and creativity. So how you learn this, where did this come from, is one side of that question. And then creativity is the other side. What you put into it, how you've changed things, how you've moved things forward. And so often those 2 things, traditionality and contemporary creativity, are the yin and yang, you might say, of folklore. And so you try to find some balance between those 2 and talking about what the individual does within a greater tradition. So those are the topics. Now, I can run through those in 5 minutes with somebody in a real quick interview, or I could take days and kind of hang out with someone and document it. Again, it all depends on what you want to use the recordings for.